but from 2005 when I received a call from Google for a job. So in 2005, Google was 5,000 people, so it's difficult to imagine, but at that time, people in Europe had no clue that Google was an employer. They knew about Google as a search engine, but they had no clue that you could have a job there. And so globally, 5,000 people. In Europe, it was 1,500. So I was actually hired at Google to set up the talent strategy and put Google on the map as an employer of choice. 10 years later, I was still at Google here in Asia. Google had multiplied by 11, so we were 55,000. And obviously, we had outgrown our HR processes, and so my job was to optimize the HR processes. And so I felt like in 10 years, that was kind of the end of a cycle. And I did feel like I wanted to move on. And that's about that same time that I also realized that HR was kind of broken, that we were getting to the end of a system. Google obviously had been doing a fantastic job in reinventing the way people were seeing HR and the way organization was run. Google all of a sudden was showcasing that company culture was super important, that it was important to have a people-centric approach to management, that the workplace, having a positive workplace was super important, etc. Sorry, so here I am, so Google. But Google grew super quick. And as we grew, we didn't have much time to customize and tailor all our HR processes to the great idea that Google had about, the positive workplace, etc. So much of the HR processes were very conventional. But today that doesn't work. It's not fit to the present, it's not fit definitely to the future. People want to be happy at work now. They want to have a work-life balance. They want to work for something much bigger than them. They want to learn, etc. What HR processes do is that they actually restrain people. They put policies and processes. They ask feedback forms, send feedback forms, etc. So it's actually, well, I do agree with that. So there's definitely something that needs to be done, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to build something new, to start from scratch. Let's remove everything that is not proving that it's helping employees do a better job, empowering them actually, and build. So I've been working with startups. Why startups? For two reasons. One, because they're open to new ways. They're open to innovation. And the second is they're in real need for new ways to run organizations. Startups can't use and set up HR processes the way it exists in big organizations. They need simple and lead and performant ways of managing employees. And so that's why I decided to set up Trellis with my co-founder, Rob Beer. And so the idea is really to rethink the way that we build organization and we motivate people. So I've been doing this for the past 3 years, and there are a few things that we have identified, few patterns that we have identified with startups. The first thing is that it takes 4 things to, to scale an organization. You need a good product. You need to find a way to make money. You need to have enough money to make it to the next stage. And you need an organization, basically people in a structure to get everything done. But the reality is that most founders do focus most of their time on the first 3, but don't spend any time at all about thinking what people to hire, how they just need to go very quickly. They need to make sure that they have a product. If they don't have a product, they don't have a company. If they don't make money, they don't have a company. So their focus is very much here. When they reach Series C, which is usually an amount of money with around 20 to 50 million, the investors usually tell them, now you have a proven model, we agree, we want to put money, now multiply, go around and, scale. And so the leadership team sits at the table and say, yeah, so what are we going to do next? We're going to enter 3 new markets, and we're going to launch a new product, and we're going to hire that many other people, et cetera, et cetera. So it looks very good on paper. But in order to make this happen, what do you need? You need people. And then what happens is that they have business needs, but the organization lags behind. And the more, the quicker they grow, the more it becomes true. And so the reality is that all the challenges happen at once, so they need to hire a lot of people. They need to, therefore, set up a recruitment team. They need to be having an employer brand. They need to be upgrading the people operations system. They need to be, to have some HR function to ensure that people get paid at the end of the day. They need to train managers. If you add so many people, you do need to have managers. You need to have them good. You need to redesign the org structure and rethink the founder's job. Before, they were very hands-on, multi-hatting. Now they have a big organization. It's not the same job that they're having. So everything happens at once, and that becomes a bit of a mess. So the first thing that we are helping organizations do, in order to do a good job, you need to plan. And the same way that they're having a product roadmap, they need to have an organization roadmap. Because when you reach Series C and all of a sudden you're opening all these offices, et cetera, it's too late to start thinking, oh, how do we hire people? And what are our who is trained to do interviews? Do we have a payroll system? All this takes time. So they need to be thinking ahead. The second thing that is extremely important is the company culture. We've done a research that we published last year. We have interviewed around 30 CEOs of leading startups, usually Series B, Series C, in order to identify what were their main organizational challenges as they were scaling. I will share the link to the report later. 2/3 of them highlighted the importance of the culture as they were scaling. Why culture is so important? Because that's the only thing that differentiates you. That's going to help you hire, that's going to help you retain people, etc. And also because any company will be able to pay more than you for a person. Any company will be able to copy your product. Any company will be able to copy your business model. But your company culture is unique. That's what differentiates you. Google is known for the company culture. So many companies have been copying and bringing bean bags and having free lunches and having all these type of things. Well, why Google is still at the top? Because that's theirs. The other ones are just doing a copy until they bring a culture of their own that is theirs. Something to realize as well is 80% of the culture comes from the CEO. So indeed, if you copy, that's not you anymore. So you need to be true to yourself. People won't believe you otherwise. If as a founder, you're very competitive, well, most of the culture must probably be very competitive and slightly aggressive. If you're a data-driven person, most of the decisions in the company will be taken from a data-driven perspective, etc. And the third thing that we are supporting startups with is really to think out of the box. Because as I said, HR is pretty broken. It doesn't work. That's not how we motivate people anymore. The policies are really restraining people. And so we encourage them to think out of the box. The same way that the feedback forms are not working. What about appraisal? That's the only thing that we know about motivating people and rewarding people in our organization. How else can we do? Well, I think we can remove that. If you think about it, on average, an organization gives less than 10% of the employees a promotion per year, following the appraisal. How is that working if 90% of your organization is demotivated after an appraisal? And do you know the number of hours that's going to be spent on that? You're not getting anything out of it. It's counterproductive entirely. What about annual leaves? If I was telling you that some organizations have no annual leave policy, people are free to take vacations whenever they feel like. It happens. Netflix is like that. That's part of their DNA. They empower people. They hire grown-up adults and believe that they will do, they trust them to make a good call and to do the good thing for the organization. If you're tired and you need vacation, that's probably the best for the organization. And it's working. They trust you. It's a good adult relationship. And that's the same for other schemes, right? When we think about retirement or retrenchment benefits, in the future, are these really going to be working? People don't want to be working until they're 80 years old in order to get their retirement, because that's going to be the reality. We're going to grow old. We're going to grow old until 100 years old. So that means we're going to retire at 80 years old? We need to think about other things. So whether that's the organization or the government, it's going to be, a mix of the two. But we need to rethink all that. People will need break. They will need to, whether we call it retire or just taking a break, they will need to retrain over time, so we can reuse that in different formats. So there are a lot of different things. So basically, this is what we are working on with the startups in building organizations that scale, but also keeping in mind that we need to build for the future with the constraints and the needs of the future. So this is it for me. Very quickly, so this is the report that we published last year. If you want to have a copy of it, that's here. So it's basically, the summary of which the 30 interviews we did with the CEOs of startups. So that's one copy, but the soft copy will be better. And it's actually pretty impressive. I mean, we did that thinking, okay, let's learn from it. From 1 year, all the companies that I worked with, it's exactly true. It's stunning. Thank you very much.